All right. This should be working now. All right. Sorry about that. Welcome to our 211th weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way this call works is this is an AMA. I've been doing this for 5 years and I still make mistakes. I'm so sorry about that. But this is an AMA, meaning ask me anything, like you see on Reddit. You can ask me business questions. You can ask me career questions, investing questions, personal questions, anything you want to. And my humble goal is to help you take your career to the next level. So further ado, let's begin. And when we run out of questions here, I've got a couple cool things to share with you today. And also, I'll open up Zoom if you guys want to ask me questions over Zoom, or if you want me to go through your resume or LinkedIn profile or a business plan or do an investment analysis in real time or go through your financial model, whatever you want. I'm here to humbly help in any way I can. Big shout out to Tom Karadza from Rockstar Real Estate in Canada for sending me this wonderful shirt. Thank you. All right. I'll kick it up with Salman, who wrote, what's up, man? How are you? I'm always great. Thanks. I hope you're doing well as well. Digital Edition wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're well. Hoping to meet you in Nairobi, Kenya soon. My mentor. Thank you. And we put the roof up on the school that we built using the profits from my programs in Rwanda. And I'm actually flying to Rwanda this upcoming summer for a month in June. And I'm going to be teaching from the school as well. And I'll do this webcast from the school as well. It should be fun. Next up, I got Ted, who wrote, hey, Chris, looking good as usual. Thank you. Feeling good, too. What do you plan on teaching at the Rwandan primary school? If I show up, can I teach comedy and magic? Yeah, sure. Why not? So I'm going to be teaching business. And so I have seminars I've set up in the past where I teach a course of mine called an entire MBA in one course. So I'm going to be going through that as well, which will be a lot of fun. And I've taught that same course at a lot of charities here in the San Francisco Bay Area. The profits all go, obviously, to charity whenever somebody hires me to do one of these things. But I'm not making money off the Rwanda thing, as you know. All right, next up, Ted wrote, I just got back from Kigali, a beautiful city. I was there the summer of 2021 in southern Uganda, and I can't wait to go back. It is a beautiful country, Rwanda. It's incredible. I love it, and I can't wait to go back. And it's right by the equator. And actually wasn't that hot when I went there in the summer of 2021. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas from India wrote, good morning, my dear mentor, Chris, please. Hope all is well. Likewise. What a wonderful day as always. How are you doing? And how cold is it there in California? It's 18 degrees, I guess, Celsius in India. And this has been the warmest winter so far. Yeah. So it's the weird thing about the San Francisco Bay Area is it can get really warm and really cold. The warmest season is usually in the fall, which is bizarre, around October. And Mark Twain once said, the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. So you always have to wear layers. So it always depends on the day. If you want warm weather, go to Southern California, not Northern California. Moving on to Tenzil, who wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise. Can we expect interest rates to decrease in the near future? No. So interest rates are still going to be increasing, but at a lesser degree, so to speak. So the Federal Reserve, which is the manager of the store of money in the United States, they've been raising rates by 75 basis points, which means 0.75% every month. And then recently they signaled they're going to be doing it by 0.5%. So the rate of change is getting less bad, but inflation is still high. Okay. And now if we look at Black Friday sales from a couple Fridays ago, sales were up 12% year over year. However, if you account for roughly 10% inflation, the organic growth was only 2% year over year. So the economy is clearly slowing in the United States and globally, of course. In the United Kingdom, we're already in a recession. 250,000 companies in the United Kingdom have gone bankrupt in the past 2 years now. So it's rough. And what the United States government wants to see is they want to see unemployment go up. And that's a sad thing to say, but when unemployment goes up, then prices of goods usually go down. And the reason is because the most important input when it comes to pricing any product you're going to produce or a service you're going to sell is the price of labor. So if unemployment continues to increase, and everybody is watching the weekly unemployment claims and the jobless reports released monthly, but if unemployment rises like to mid to high single digits, then I think the United States Federal Reserve will stop raising interest rates. You got to watch that really closely, the unemployment numbers. And it's important to monitor unemployment numbers and any economic statistic released by governments because companies only release earnings 4 times per year, every 3 months. So you have to wait 3 months to find out how companies are doing. However, governments release economic statistics every month and every week when it comes to jobless claims. And so that's kind of your channel check on the economy and how corporate earnings might trend in the long run. Yeah. But the stock market tends to discount what's happening 6 months ahead of time. And so if investors feel that the government is going to stop raising interest rates in like 6 months or so, then the markets will rally. Yeah. All right. Next up, Simon from Bulgaria. And Simon, thank you so much for that email. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all your mother's feedback, helping me with my delivery. I'm trying to be much more engaging as well for my audience. Yeah. So Simon wrote, hey, Chris, a quick question. Can you talk a bit about startup grants? Is there a central kind of entity or job like NGOs, meaning non-government operations, which means charities? Are there any sort of entities or jobs like NGOs that have someone go after grants, but for venture capital? Yeah. There are agencies that will help you raise money for hedge funds, private equity firms, and venture capital firms. And big investment banks have cap intro as well. They really don't help you raise money, though. And you might be able to talk to certain lobbyists to help you as well. But I don't think there's anyone you can really outsource that to. You just got to do a search on it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great to see it. Next up, we got Dane. Dane wrote, did you watch the Berkeley Space Enterprise launch on December 3rd? My grandson is on the launch team. It was a great success. I did not, but I'm very proud of my son who's taken after his mother. He's smart. He's at Berkeley now as well. He's doing engineering, but I think he's going to switch into business. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, we've got Nintendo. And thank you for joining my channel. I see your emoji there, the trophy. You wrote, what's your opinion on FTX and SBF? Was this a mistake or deliberate fraud? Yeah, nobody really knows right now, but the problem with FTX, one of the many problems, is that it didn't really have a reputable auditor. And it was headquartered in Bermuda, so there's not as much financial disclosure there. But this reminds me a lot of Enron. And it reminds me a lot of other blow-ups, to the extent that companies that tend to go belly up or have financial issues don't have a recognizable auditor. And I usually like to invest in companies that have auditors from one of the big 4 firms like KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, etc. So that was one of the issues. Yeah. Also, what happened, it's interesting because history does repeat itself. When markets crash. So this right here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's this guy named Bernard Madoff in 2008. What happened was he ran his asset management firm for decades, and it was a Ponzi scheme. He was lying to people about how much money he had in terms of assets under management. In fact, this here I got from eBay. Is a statement of somebody's holdings, and I blacked out the name here, from Madoff, meaning which stocks this person owned. But what happened in 2008 was everybody was asking for redemptions from all the largest funds. What happened was he didn't have enough money to return the money directly to investors. I knew he was a fraud the whole time because his name was Madoff. Because he made off, sorry. But the same thing happened with FTX, right? And so the stock markets crashed in 2008 and everyone asked for their money back. The same thing happened with FTX, except the cryptocurrency markets crashed, and a lot of investors were asking for their money back, and they didn't have enough money to dish out or give back to investors. So there was likely fraud involved. Nobody really knows. And cryptocurrencies are so volatile. And I always recommend, I say with love of my heart to all my students, that if you're going to invest in cryptocurrencies, I don't want cryptocurrencies to be more than 5% of your liquid net worth, meaning your investment portfolio. And I don't want any one particular crypto to be more than 0.5% of your liquid portfolio. Either cryptocurrencies, for the most part, are a scam. There are a handful that are great investments, and I believe in them. But the problem is that they're not regulated. Right? They're not regulated by governments. They're kind of regulated by the laws of mathematics, if at all. And one of the issues given regulation is that if you're regulated by the government, sorry for this mess here, but if you're regulated by the government, you're forced to release these financial disclosures. Okay, and so for Meta, ticker META, this is Facebook's IPO prospectus. Before they went public in 2012, they had to release this massive document written by lawyers and investment bankers. Sorry. What's happening with FTX is FTX spent close to $100 lobbying government officials in the United States to try to classify cryptocurrencies as commodities. And if you're classified as a commodity, you don't have to write these massive reports whenever you issue a commodity or a cryptocurrency. Of course, that's not going to happen now. Cryptocurrencies are, in my humble opinion, going to be regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, so that before you invest in cryptos, you'll get this document. Now, in my MBA degree program, which you can find out more about at the link below, but in my MBA degree program, what I do is I teach you how to analyze cryptocurrencies and all major asset classes by building something like this yourself. But even after doing all the investment research on some cryptos, it's hard for you to really understand, what the inherent value is in a cryptocurrency, because they're not regulated by governments at all. So in addition to reading the white paper on cryptocurrencies, you have to analyze the management team and do a lot more research as well. And that's why I recommend having a very small percent of your portfolio in cryptocurrencies. Now, FTX was brilliant from a marketing perspective and unethical, in my humble opinion, because what they did was they spent a lot of money advertising with Major League Baseball. And Major League Baseball, which is, America's pastime, what they did was they actually sponsored all the umpires on the field. Umpires are supposed to be, neutral and unbiased and trustworthy. And the umpires in Major League Baseball had FTX written on their shirt. They were sponsored. So it was a marketing scam as well, in my humble opinion. Nobody really knows what's going to happen yet, as regulators and lawyers and district attorneys, et cetera, are looking into what the hell they did. Yeah. All right. All right. Next up, I've got, give me 1 second. I'm just going to do a sound check here. Check, 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 check. Okay, we're good. All right. And then Manos wrote, wear a YOLO shirt, please. YOLO stands for you only live once. And that's a new mentality from many people, actually, that decided to quit their jobs during COVID or focus on what they're most passionate about. The YOLO generation. YOLO. You only live once. Okay, moving on to Solomon, who wrote, when do you think the price of cryptocurrencies will rise to an all-time high again? Not for a long time. I think what's going to happen is one of two things. If a country is more right-wing, then they'll regulate them. If a country is more left-wing, they'll make them illegal. Because cryptocurrencies are the biggest threat to national security in many countries, and I can go into more detail why. I think once you see some sort of government regulation occur, then cryptocurrencies will spike again. Because people feel more confident investing in assets that disclose a lot more. So I think it's going to be a couple of years at least until we see cryptocurrencies reach all-time highs. Yeah. Okay. And a little side note here, if anybody has cryptocurrencies, please don't store them in a hot wallet, meaning online in the cloud. I want you to store them in a cold storage wallet, which is like a USB token, and keep it offline always. Nothing is safe online. Okay, next up we have Carolyn. Hey, Carolyn, how are you? Carolyn is from France, but she lives now in Ontario, Canada. She's in my Silver MBA program. Caroline wrote, good morning, Chris. As you probably know, the Canadian Bank has raised interest rates another 50 basis points. I feel sorry for families in trouble with their mortgages, tough times. Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. It impacts all of us. So if you look at the yield curve, and you can always go to treasury.gov and look at that, you can see what long-term interest rates are projected to be. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate has more than doubled this year, so it's tough. But the Bank of Canada actually is raising rates slower than some people expected. Earlier this year, the Bank of Canada, the BOC, had a nuclear interest rate rise of 100 basis points, meaning 1%, which spooked the markets in Canada. 50 basis points is not as bad now. Things are getting less bad, and we always look at the rate of change. Yeah. Okay. Next up, and by the way, if anybody wants to learn more about real estate and you're in Canada, just do a search on Rockstar Real Estate. That's my good friend Tom Karatza. He gave me this shirt. He started that company. And I own property in Canada because of him. Yeah. Okay, next up, and I'm not sponsored by anybody. Soros wrote, hey, thank you for the live. You're most welcome. Thank you for being here. Questions. Do hedge funds sell premiums? Much love from Canada. Thank you. No, so the way it works with hedge funds and private equity firms and venture capital firms, the way they make money is they charge an annual management fee and an incentive fee. So, and I'll give you an example from Billions, okay, the television show lots you watch. Billions, Bobby Axelrod's hedge fund, charges 3% and 30%. And what that means is this. He charges, it's a fictional hedge fund, but he charges a 3% annual management fee. So if he's running $1 billion in assets, if he has $1 billion in assets under management, he'll get $30 million a year to pay for salaries, whatever, his corporate jet, office space, etc. Then the 30% is an incentive fee. And what that means is that he gets 30% of all the money he makes. So if his hedge fund goes from $1 billion and doubles to $2 billion in a year, he makes $1 billion times 30%, that's $300 million in profits. Now, if a hedge fund is down 1 year, they got to make that money back before they can get that 30%. And that's called getting above your high water mark. And this is exactly how hedge funds, venture capital firms, and private equity firms work. The reality is, though, the fees are usually 1.5 and 20 now, or 2 and 20. You can charge 3 and 30 or higher rates if you have amazing returns, as long as you're not cooking the books. Okay. Next up, Madoff wrote, SBF and FTX owns a stake in a lot of companies like Solana and others. If bankruptcy proceeds, will these companies be facing issues like a catalyst effect? Yeah, all ships sink. And it's not just FTX, it's other exchanges as well that are having financial issues. Nobody is immune. Maybe Coinbase is okay. If you want, go to my YouTube channel, do a search on Coinbase. About a year and a half ago, I did a segment where I talked about Coinbase not only going public, but they also raised over $1 billion by doing a big debt offering. And so they're well capitalized, relatively speaking. Yeah. Okay, but this is normal. Like when interest rates are zero, a lot of people invest in speculative asset classes. Right? But when interest rates are high, of course, we leave our money in the bank, so we're going to make more money in the bank, so to speak. And if we go back to the early 1980s, when inflation and interest rates were close to 20%, it was awful. Every speculative asset class did poorly. In fact, every asset class did poorly, including real estate, stocks, VC. Hardly any companies were born in the early 80s. Things are not as bad today versus the early 80s because unemployment today is just under 4%. Back then, it was over 10%. Yeah. But this is normal. As rates rise, speculative asset classes go down. And that's why you've got to be diversified in your portfolio, which I teach about in my MBA degree program and my courses, which you can learn more about at the links below. Okay. Moving on to JM, who wrote, some analysts use earnings to calculate dividend payout ratio. Others have used free cash flow. What is the difference and which is the best metric to determine the safety of a company's dividend? Yeah. So let me first of all kick it off by saying, if you ever see a dividend yield on a company that's really high, like 20%, don't rush in and buy it. Do the work first, because the market is probably expecting that dividend to be cut or the company has other issues. And you got to read these things thoroughly before you invest in any company. You can always go to sec.gov for more details. Yeah. And I don't believe in special dividends. Like Microsoft did this in the fall of 2003. Where they did a massive one-time dividend because they didn't know what to do with their cash. They should have just bought back shares. But I love companies that have dividend yields that are around 2, 3, or 4%. Anything higher, roll up your sleeves and do the work because there could be issues. Intel, for example, has really high dividend yield right now. And one of the reasons is because a lot of people think that Intel is in financial trouble. I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Simon wrote, what do you think about Blackstone's collateralized fund obligation product? I don't know anything about that. I'm sorry. I've not looked into that. Yeah. Moving on to Manas, who wrote, George Soros crashed the pound in a day, ? Yeah, he did. So what happened was in the 1990s, George Soros made $1 billion in one day by making the British pound crash. He did the same thing with the Thai baht. And what this means is this, and it wasn't just him, other hedge funds and the hedge fund mafia piled onto his trade as well. So what happens is a lot of currencies are fixed. Okay, so if you travel to the Caribbean, a lot of currencies in the Caribbean are fixed to the US dollar. And a lot of Caribbean countries do this so that American tourists, they don't have to worry about volatility in terms of the currency when they book their travel, for example. But most currencies are variable. They go up and down based on the market's demands. Now, in order to have a fixed currency, you have to have a lot of reserves, meaning cash, to be able to buy and sell your own currency and others to make sure it stays fixed. What George Soros did in Thailand with the Thai baht in the 90s and in England with the British pound was he forced both of those two governments to run out of those reserves. And so they had to actually float, meaning make their currency variable, which destroy both those aforementioned currencies. Yeah. And the British pound used to be pegged or fixed to a handful of European and global currencies way before the euro existed. And you can always do a search on my YouTube channel on George Soros to learn more detail about that. I did a lengthy vlog on that. Yeah. Okay, next up, Eric, who's in my Silver MBA, how are you, man? Wrote, where can I get an NDA, meaning a non-disclosure agreement? Yeah. So a couple things. Number one, before you meet with investors, if you're trying to raise capital from early stage investors or venture capital firms, I don't recommend asking for an NDA, not yet. And the reason is because investors will meet with you and they're doing you a favor by meeting with you. And if you say, hey, can you sign this NDA first? They're probably not going to take the meeting. Now, in terms of getting the NDA written up, the non-disclosure agreement, you always go to a lawyer. I recommend going to LegalZoom.com and getting it done that way. Or if you're not in the United States, do a search on what is the LegalZoom equivalent in your country. Now, in my MBA degree program, in the third semester in the entrepreneurship boot camp, I talk about how to pitch your business model in such a way that you don't disclose really confidential things. So when you first pitch your business model to investors, what you do is you give a 10-page presentation and you just explain your company from a high-level perspective. You keep it simple and short and use Steve Jobs' presentation methodology of only 3 bullet points per slide. If you get to a later stage and you met with them a number of times and they're going to invest, then you can talk about them getting an NDA. But I wouldn't do so before that. Yeah. Okay. And then Simon said Enron and FTX shared the same CEO. I don't know. I don't think they did. But Enron, which was ticker ENE, which went belly up in 2002, was similar to FTX in that there was a lot of fraud, I think, involved or misleading of investors. If you want to learn more about Enron, there's a great television show called The Smartest Guys in the Room, which was actually it was a movie about Enron, which is great. I'd check it out. Okay. All right, next up, Renveer wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. My question today is about Madoff. Yeah, and this is the Madoff thing I have here. How come his Ponzi went on for so long and the authorities didn't know about it? Yeah, well, he created fake reports, and he probably had a lot of people that he was bribing as well. There's a great movie called The Wizard of Wall Street with Robert De Niro in it, who plays Bernard Madoff. I checked that out as well. Yeah, but if the assets you're managing are going up a lot in value, and only some people ask for redemptions, you can cover those redemptions. But if you don't have enough money and the markets are crashing and the securities that you manage are crashing as well, you don't have enough money as well. Regulators should have caught it. They didn't. Yeah. Yeah. But this thing looks so damn real. I mean, this looks like a real report. And it lists all the stocks this person owns, including J&J, JP Morgan, Coca-Cola, etc. All bogus. Everybody was in on it at the company. Yeah, it was awful. Yeah. But what happens is whenever you have financial crashes in any markets, be it cryptocurrencies, stocks, etc., then regulation occurs. And post-2008, there's much better regulation than there was today. Now, with the FTX crash and the cryptocurrency crash right now, that's going to lead to regulation as well. Just like after the stock market crashed in the late 20s and you had the Great Depression in the 30s, what happened was regulation was created and the SEC was created then as well. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, how can investors find out about Ponzi artists? It's hard, man. That's why I always recommend that only invest in companies that have reputable auditors, meaning an auditor from the Big Four. Yeah, because they're supposed to bless the financials and look out for that sort of thing. Yeah. But I've been in board meetings before, and I wouldn't know if a CFO was lying to me. It's impossible to know unless you have good auditors doing deep due diligence. The way that you know that a CEO is lying is when he or she moves their lips, though. Yeah. That was awful. Sorry. All right. Next up, I have got here. Okay, the Berlin, who's in my Platinum MBA program, wrote, Chris, good morning. Good morning to you, too. The Berlin lives here in San Bernardino, California. He wrote, have you seen the new Ledger? Ledger Stacks. It holds crypto, NFTs, and I believe credit card IDs. I'm not familiar with that one. My go-to cryptocurrency cold storage wallets are the Ledger Nano, as well as the Trezor, which is Bulgarian for vaults. And never buy cryptocurrency cold storage wallets from Amazon or eBay. Buy them directly from the source. Yes, you'll pay a bit more, but they're less likely to be tampered with. Okay. And then Eric wrote, who has analyzed Elon Musk's marketing methods? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have. I've done it in a ton of my vlogs. Now, the brilliance of Elon Musk is that you've never seen a commercial for a Tesla. It doesn't exist. And most companies like Coca-Cola, what they do is they spend 10% of their annual revenue on advertising. And so Coca-Cola has $40 billion in annual revenue. They spend $10 billion or $4 billion every single year on advertising. Elon Musk doesn't spend any money on advertising. What he does is he does it by leveraging controversy. And it's a brilliant marketing tactic, and I recommend all of you use it as well. But you got to be tasteful about it. So if you're controversial, like Mark Benioff has been and Sir Richard Branson have been, the media loves you and you get free PR. Mark Benioff for years said that software is dead. When he started Salesforce.com back in 1999. And everybody thought, what does that mean? That's controversial. Let me interview you. And it was interesting because he said that traditional client-server software that runs on your computer is bloated. It doesn't work that well. Software is dead. Software should be up in the cloud, or all code should be up in the cloud. So Richard Branson was very controversial as well because he rented a tank and drove into Times Square and declared war on Coca-Cola when he launched Virgin Cola back in the early 1980s. So controversy works exceptionally well. It works for Elon. Now, Elon bought Twitter for next to nothing, in my humble opinion. And I think if he does it right, Twitter could one day be a $1 trillion company because Twitter doesn't have any competition as long as the advertisers don't leave. But if you think about it, if Coca-Cola spends $4 billion a year, okay, on advertising, then that means that, over 20 years, that's $80 billion on advertising. Well, Elon paid a hell of a lot less for that for Twitter, and he's getting free advertising for that, for SpaceX, the Boring Company, Tesla, etc., and whatever he does next. So I think he is absolutely brilliant when it comes to marketing. Yeah. And you guys can be controversial as well by writing articles on LinkedIn that are somewhat controversial, but tasteful. For example, for me, I can write an article saying that Harvard Business School, HBS, 2/3 of HBS is BS. Or maybe it's Haroun Business School or Haroun Business School. Some people mispronounce my last name. Haroun rhymes with baboon. Now you'll never forget. Okay. All All right, next up, Chetan wrote, if you're recruiting equity research analysts, would you expect the candidate to follow more than 3 markets? No. No. So what you want to do when you hire analysts, be it on the buy side at a hedge fund like Citadel where I worked, or Goldman Sachs on the sell side where I worked as well, you want to make sure they're an expert in one particular market. Because if you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. You got to be good at one particular sector, one market. That's all you need. Yeah. Okay. And then next up, Manos wrote, there's a price cap on Russian oil, but Russia is refusing to supply at 60. I didn't realize that. What will happen next? And if Europe doesn't get oil from them, then would a recession occur? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, oil is basically in every product. It's in this product. It's in this product. Anything that's plastic, it's in as well, right? Oil is the subfabric of the entire economy. So yeah, if oil prices rise, then the whole world is in trouble. Yeah, yeah. All right. Next up, Chetan wrote, is it possible for a fresher, meaning I guess a freshman or somebody without much experience, to get into the buy side equity research? And that means a mutual fund or a hedge fund, provided he or she is regular in holding informational meetings, or is it impossible to get to buy side without experience? Now, you got to start somewhere. And I know for a fact that you can do a ton of informational meetings, which I teach at the beginning in semester 1 of my MBA program. If you set up a ton of informational meetings and you write enough research reports on stocks, and I provide you with all the templates in my MBA program for doing that, then it's just a matter of time until you get a job, and you will. But every time, and I'll make this kind of more of a generic statement here, whenever anybody sees a job opening online, the likelihood that you're going to get that job is literally 1 out of 250. It's hard, man. And the person that gets that job usually knows somebody at the company. So if that's the rule, you got to know somebody at the company, then let's make it so. And the way you do that is you have an amazing LinkedIn profile, which I set up for you and I write for you personally if you're in my Platinum MBA program. And then you set up a ton of informational meetings. And if I told you that if you did 100 informational meetings, that you were guaranteed the job of your dreams, would you do it? Of course you would. Please follow through and do a ton of informational meetings. They're free to do, and it will help you get the job of your dreams. I promise you this works. It works exceptionally well. It's worked for tons of my students. I'll give you plenty of examples too. Okay. Okay, and then Chetan wrote, can you please elaborate regarding your offshore account? Sure. Sorry, I'm asking you repeatedly, but you mentioned 2 names of which was the British Virgin Islands. Yeah. So when I ran my hedge fund years ago, what I did was I had an onshore vehicle, okay, which was a United States-based entity, and an offshore vehicle in the BVI, British Virgin Islands. And that's called a master feeder. They both fed up into my hedge fund. And the reason I had an offshore fund set up in the British Virgin Islands was because a lot of my investors, including ABN AMRO and lots of European investors, didn't want to invest directly in the United States because they want to pay taxes here. So they invested offshore. Now, you never give your clients ever tax advice unless you're an accountant. It's up to them to invest offshore or onshore. Yeah. And I can talk about more details now. I set that up if you want to. The law firm that did it for me was called the Securities Law Group, based here in San Francisco, and the lawyer's name was Jim Grant. Cost me about $30,000 to set it all up years ago. And what you can do is you can amortize or expense your clients if you have enough money under management. You can expense them every single month for 5 years. That's 60 months. Yeah. And BVI is a lot cheaper than Cayman Islands. That's why I did it there. All right, next up, the Berlin wrote, Peter Thiel, who runs Founders Fund, a big venture capital firm in the Bay Area. Peter Thiel, you're right, he is investing in human growth. I was just saying there's a point in American history where humans, and then I can't read the rest of your comment. Yeah. So a lot of money here in the Bay Area is going into life extension. And I believe there are people on this call that will make it to 150. I really do. And the biotech capital in the United States, at least, is here in South San Francisco, right by the SFO airport. Yeah. And post the healthcare crisis in the past couple of years, for obvious reasons, a lot more money is going to that sector now. Okay. Next up, Jitan wrote, do you think there's an ETF bubble? Would you like to share with us your methodology to find a bubble? Yeah. No, I don't think there's an ETF bubble. I think that ETFs are still solid investments relative to mutual funds. Mutual funds are a scam because mutual funds charge you, including hidden fees, 3, 4, and 5%. Right? ETFs, which outperform mutual funds, have fees that are much lower. Usually 0.03%. And so my go-to ETF that I like to invest in when I'm not sure where to put my capital, and I've been buying this recently as well, is called the VU. And so if we all go together here to finance.yahoo.com, that's me buying time until it loads. There's a ticker for VU, okay? And I recommend people buy this, okay? It's offered by Vanguard, which is the number one ETF company on the planet. And what VU is it represents the 500 stocks in the United States index, the S&P 500. And the fees are ridiculously low now. Look how low they are. The fees are 0.01%. What that means is for every $100 you put into this ETF, you're only paying a penny every single year. A penny in fees. Unlike, 300, 400, or 500 pennies you pay with mutual funds that underperform this. Now, in terms of the holdings here, you can see the breadth and depth here with the 12 sector weightings here. And these are the 12 sectors that make up the S&P 500, the largest of which here is technology. And then here are the largest components here, tech focus for obvious reasons. Yeah. So this is my go-to investment when I'm not sure where to put money. And I don't have time to roll up my sleeves to do investment research on new ideas. Now, the S&P 500 has been up 10.5% on average every year for the past couple of decades. Of course, it's going to be down this year. But if all you did was you took your $20,000 or $22,000 in retirement savings every year and you put it directly into the S&P, then in 20 years, you'd have over $1 million. If your spouse did it as well, you'd have over $2 million. If you save for your kids as well through that investment vehicle, you have close to $3 million as well. And you only pay taxes when you take the money out. If you take the money out for your kids' educational savings account or 529, then you don't pay taxes if they use it for education. Yeah, it's a sweetheart of a deal. Okay. Now, in terms of how do I think there's a bubble in the markets? It's when assets are at nosebleed levels. Like nobody has mentioned the term NFT on any call until today for the past 6 months. And it's because NFTs were in a massive bubble and the bubble burst. Now, it's really hard to make money shorting stocks when they're expensive. And I worked for this great man named Art Sandberg. He started a firm called Pequot, a big hedge fund. God bless him, he passed away recently, Art Sandberg. But I remember years ago in 2007, I wanted to short some of the home builders, and I worked for him. And myself and my colleagues, we were pitching Lennar, which is a home builder, ticker LEN as a short, and KBH as a short. And he said, what's your thesis? And he said, well, there's a bubble in the real estate market. And he stopped us. He was really nice. God bless him. I miss him. He said, son, I've been around long enough to understand never to stand in the way of insanity. Markets peak, markets trough, bubbles burst. You just can't time it. You just can't time it. And that's why I personally like to be very long-term focused whenever I invest. The longer the view, the wiser the intention, always. Yeah. All right. And Asil wrote, how are you today, teacher? I'm great, thanks. I'm always great. I hope you're doing well as well. Okay, moving on to Kaz. Kaz wrote, what's the best mobile-friendly trading app? I don't know. I do all my transactions on the web. Yeah. And please don't trade. But transactional-wise, they're all pretty similar. And if anybody has great recommendations on good transaction-based applications, please leave it here in the comments. Thanks. You always want to search for the one where the fees are lowest, of course. Okay, moving on to Alexander, who wrote, is it difficult starting a hedge fund or a private equity fund? You have to have a track record and you have to work in the industry for a while if you want to be able to raise money. And with any startup, whenever you're raising money, whatever people tell you they're going to give you in terms of investing, cut it in half. Because at the last second, people kind of freak out. Yeah. But it comes with a lot of networking. And I've done a ton of networking in my career. And I put all of my best secrets for you in this free book. on how to network to get a job, raise money, or anything you want, just go to HarounMBA.com, and you can scroll down to the bottom here, and you can get this book for free called Networking to Get Customers, a Job, or Anything You Want. It's a couple hundred pages plus a few hours of YouTube videos. I promise you'll help you take your career to the next level or raise money. Yeah. And I teach you how to raise money in my MBA degree program as well. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote also, and you got to work in those industries first, obviously, before you start a company. You know, it's kind of like saying, I want to join the NFL, but you didn't play football in high school. You have to have experience first, yeah. And then you wrote also, do you have to have certain credentials to start a hedge fund, etc., such as a license or an MBA to be credible? No, you don't have to. You don't have to, yeah. You just have to be able to sell. And great entrepreneurs are great salespeople, and CEOs are great salespeople. Elon Musk is the best salesperson on the planet, yeah. Okay. And then Renvir asked me to talk a little about Ray Dalio and Alpha. Yeah, Ray Dalio started the largest hedge fund in the world. It's called Bridgewater. It's based on the East Coast of the United States in Connecticut. His fund has done extremely well over the years. He has over $100 billion in assets under management. I have friends that have worked for him. And one thing I'll say, and I'm always transparent and open with all of you as always, and I don't have sponsors for a reason, is that it's tough working there. And every single meeting at Bridgewater is recorded. Every conversation you have is recorded, except if you're in the bathroom. It's true. So there's kind of like this fear mentality there. And I've heard secondhand that employee turnover is about 40%, right? So it certainly is a pressure cooker. In terms of alpha, what alpha refers to, professional money managers will say alpha when they're referring to how much they're outperforming the market by. So if somebody that works at a mutual fund or a hedge fund, if they're being compared to the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 is up 10% in a year, and they are up 15%, then they've generated 500% or 500 basis points of alpha. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Rose from Virginia, who's in my first Platinum MBA program years ago. Good morning. Good to see you. And our next MBA program, if you guys are interested, it actually starts, if you go to HarounMBA.com and just click here, you'll learn about my next program. My next MBA program, Gold and Platinum, starts January 30th. That's Monday, January 30th. Okay, it's every Monday and Tuesday, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time. Or you can start today with the Silver MBA program, and then you'll get a discount to upgrade as well. And all my programs have 30-day money back, 100% money back guarantees. I've got bundles here as well if you guys are interested. Again, go to HarounMBA.com and you can click through to access that. Yeah. Or go to this link here. Yeah. All right. Next up, Soros wrote, has Sheila Koldaker, the writer of Black Edge, spoken to you for her book before release? No, I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. No. Next up, Madoff wrote, Elon is setting up beds. I saw that in the office here at Twitter in California on Market Street. Yeah. Do you think buying Snapchat with Twitter would have been helpful because Twitter is not a video player? Yeah, so let me first of all talk about the beds issue. So Elon is hardcore. We all know that. I have friends that have worked for him. He's very demanding, just like Steve Jobs was. God bless him. And so he set up beds at Twitter's headquarters on Market Street in San Francisco in case people are working hard. And the city, San Francisco, is saying that's not right. You can't do that. It might be a zoning issue. We don't know. In terms of them buying Snapchat, I don't know. I don't know if it would make too much sense for them. And I don't think Elon has enough cash right now to do that unless he sells more shares of Tesla. Now, years ago, Twitter bought a company called Vine. And Vine was kind of like TikTok, except there was only 14-second videos. And then Twitter destroyed that IP, which is what happens usually when one company buys another one in the tech sector. All right, moving on to Eric. And Eric, thank you for purchasing my MBA program or my courses here. I see you joined you bought it over YouTube here. I see your icon. You wrote, hey, Chris, I'm venturing back out to the job market, and I'd like your opinion on business headshots. Are they still necessary? If yes, what would you suggest somebody pay? Yeah. I don't think you really need it. I mean, cell phones nowadays, Android handsets and iOS devices are good enough, right? You can set up portrait mode if you want to with decent lighting outdoors, and it should work fine. In terms of what do you wear, well, what you want to do if before an interview or before thinking about marketing yourself to a certain company, what you want to do is you want to go to the LinkedIn profiles of people that work at that company and see what they're wearing, and you can wear the same thing. I always recommend a little bit of a smile too on your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. Okay. If you're going to pay somebody to do it, you can get a professional to do it for $100. Just do a search on Craigslist if you want to. Yeah. But I think you can do it yourself. Okay, moving on to Asil, who wrote, there is a new AI-powered search engine. Literally every techie is talking about ChatGPT. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Do you think AI will affect economies in upcoming years? Oh, absolutely. And before I invest in anything, I always ask myself, in 5 years, is this product or technology or sector going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? Obviously, AI is going to be much more relevant. Now, in terms of GPT, it's unbelievable. And one of my really good friends, Jason Chu, he's been sending me daily updates on how it works. It's incredible. He'll write something like, for if somebody, like he sent this to me, write a 250-word essay about a child's experience overcoming financial hardship. And the bot wrote this in 3 seconds. And I can't read this to you, but it's unbelievable. And you can do this with any question as well. It's revolutionary, and it's every teacher's nightmare, because you're not plagiarizing, because this bot is the ChatGPT bot is just typing it all up from scratch. And I've even done it myself, and I've copied and pasted all the text and searched all over the internet and couldn't find any matches for it. It's unbelievable. Everybody check it out, ChatGPT. There's even rappers that have actually asked the chat bot to write rap songs. It actually sounds pretty good, like it rhymes and stuff too. It's amazing. It really is. Yeah. We live in interesting times, and the future is now. Okay. And Kit wrote, let's talk about option selling. Yeah. So I want you to be really careful with options, and I teach about this in a lot of detail in my MBA degree program, but I only recommend options if you want to protect a position. Okay, so basically, if I own Coca-Cola shares, okay, and for some reason I don't want to sell those shares, but I think the stock might be weak really soon. And the reason I might not want to sell the shares is because I don't want to pay taxes on it. So what you can do is you can put on a coat to protect Coke, and that's called a put. And this is buying a put, not selling. I'll get to selling in a second. So you buy a protective coat on it called a put. So if Coca-Cola goes down in value, this goes up in value, and it's a wash, you lose nothing. Okay? And the most you can lose is what you paid when you bought this put. Now, a call is the opposite of that. But I don't want you to sell these, like underwrite them, like investment bankers do with IPOs. And the reason I don't want you to do that is because you can lose an unlimited amount if you're underwriting options. Yeah. Just be careful. And if you're in my MBA program, you can go to FA44. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, class number 4, for 30 hours of how to do every type of option. Yeah. And practice for at least 6 months first, please. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Next up, Madoff wrote, thank you, and God bless you as always. And thank you for all those wonderful emojis, and God bless you, brother. Yeah. And every day I get up, before I get out of bed, I thank God for 10 things in this order. My kids, Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, Christine, my wife, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, my sisters, Katie and Elizabeth, and you, my students. Thank you. Try that. Practice gratitude every day before you get out of bed. It puts you into a peak mental state. And then I read a short passage from the Bible. Okay. And then Rose wrote, Chris, what do you think of the decentralized social platform Mastodon that people are claiming will overtake Twitter? It's a cool concept, but I don't know if it'll last. What are your thoughts? Yeah. all that matters with any internet company, whenever venture capitalists are looking to invest, is the number of subscribers. That's all people care about. You build it now and you monetize it later. So I'll give you a great example of this. So Evan Spiegel, who started Snapchat, he came up to the Bay Area many years ago, and he was trying to raise money from venture capital firms. And he was explaining his business model, and the venture capitalists were like, that's so stupid. Why would I want to lose pictures of my kids? They didn't get it. Clearly, they're old and pathetic like me. And then years later, he came back to the Valley and tried to raise money again. And he said, remember me? We talked about this, this picture app in our last meeting, and I have 6 million subs. And the same venture capitalists were like, oh my God, that's the best business model ever. So all people care about is the number of subscribers. I would monitor that closely. Yeah, very closely. And when any sort of technology platform or app or whatever is tech company starts becoming a little bit less relevant, meaning subs are contracting, it's usually game over. We saw that with Method and many other social media platforms. If you want to understand what social media platform you should use next before it becomes popular, just do a search on Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah, see what he does. Okay. All right. Next up, Eric, who's in my Silver MBA, wrote, what do you think about $200.4 trillion global derivatives? Derivative contracts are made concentrated in interest rate products. Yeah. So the market cap of the global stock market, meaning all stocks, and like ticker KO, all stocks combined, is so small compared to derivatives. Derivatives is 6 times bigger than the global market cap of all stocks. It is massive. It is massive. And a big part of that is options. And I touch on futures, swaps, and other derivatives as well in my MBA program in FA44 for those of you that are registered. Yeah. Okay, next up, Sarush wrote, what do you think of Jim Simmons? Yeah, so he's probably the most brilliant person to ever use AI to make billions on stocks. So Jim Simmons and his son actually lives out here at Berkeley, but Jim Simmons started this hedge fund called Renaissance Technologies. And Jim used to work at the National Security Advisor, so he understands math. And so when he started Renaissance back in the 80s, he figured out how to create thousands of Linux servers running in parallel that leverage AI to pick stocks. And since the 1980s until today, his hedge fund is up, get this, 60% on a gross basis on average. It's unbelievable. And basically what he's done, and what a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do, and this is closely guarded, is he takes a bunch of inputs from the internet. And then what he'll do is his computers will invest based on those inputs. So for example, here in the Bay Area for the past couple of days, it's been raining a lot. If and one of the inputs might be the weather. If lots of rain, then short restaurant stocks, because people don't go out to eat or for lunch or dinner if it's raining as much. So he's brilliant. You can do a search on my YouTube channel on the word hedge fund, and you'll see I did a very long segment on him and why he's so successful. Yeah, it's amazing. All right. Oh my God, Mo. Mo, great to see you. Mo was in my first year. I miss you, brother. I love you. Mo was in my first year MBA class a couple of years ago. He's from Baltimore. He works with his brother in this incredible door business as well. He coaches basketball. He's a motivational speaker, and I miss you. And I hope you're doing well, buddy. So Mo wrote, hi, Chris. Hope you and your incredible MBA family are doing well. It's been a while. You're incredible. I miss you, man. I miss you. I love you. I love you. Yeah. So good to see you. Oops, it skipped on me. Hold on a second, buddy. Okay. And then Mo wrote, how do you make your timestamps for your videos? Can you show us an example of your protocols? You do a great job. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the way it works in YouTube, I miss you, man. The way it works in YouTube is if you want to timestamp anything, what you have to do is you have to write 0 at the top, and I'll show you. So let's go to this week's here. So after the webcast is done, I have one of my amazing former students, John Klee, who's based in Rochester, go through this. And what he'll do is he'll put in all the timestamps on the same day. So within an hour of this call being done today, or a couple hours, John will go through and do this. Now, in order to do this, you have to, the trick is you have to write ::00 at the top. Otherwise, YouTube won't pick up on this. It's that simple. And then you click here and it just turns it directly into HTML. You don't have to HTML it yourself. Just write the numbers there like that. Yeah. And John, I know you're listening because you're going to be doing the replay of this. You do a great job as always. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next up, Captain Red Arrow wrote, I completed 3 of your courses. Can I get a letter recommendation for you for my university? It'll increase my chances of getting in. Yeah, I'm sorry. I only write recommendations for people I've worked with. And anybody that's a platinum or gold student of mine, I'm happy to write you recommendations and stuff because that way I get to know you guys as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Mo wrote, can you explain the advantages or disadvantages of getting a funding round on a safe note versus a convertible note versus regular equity? Yeah. So I did a vlog on this a while ago, comparing and contrasting raising money through an IPO as well as through SPACs and other instruments. The way it works is if you want to raise money to do an IPO in the equity markets, it costs a lot of money because you got to get investment bankers to write a big thing like this. But as you move over to the other end of the spectrum when it comes to SPACs, safes, or convertible notes, there's much less paperwork to the extent that if you want to do a convert, you might only need to pay a lawyer, $5 or $10K to be able to write up a 20-page investment offering memorandum instead of this. Now, I'm not a securities lawyer. Always go to LegalZoom.com or talk to a lawyer first. Yeah. And I don't recommend anybody invest in SPACs. Do a search on my YouTube channel for more details on why. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next up, the Berlin wrote, Chris, on your last class, customer concentration, why is it a risk to have more than 10% exposure? And if you have more than 10%, how do you bring that number down or deal with that situation? Yeah. Yeah, so what you'll find is with a lot of publicly traded companies, when they release earnings 4 times per year, and they do earnings calls, the analysts from firms like Goldman Sachs, UBS, etc., they'll ask questions like, did you have any 10% customers? And the reason they'll ask that is because if you have too much concentration in 1 or 2 customers, then what happens is your revenue and earnings volatility is very, very high. And the best way to explain it is for me to pivot and talk about portfolio management. In your portfolio, I don't ever recommend having more than 5% in any one particular stock. Because if you had, say, 50% or 20% in a particular stock, and that stock crashes, that's really going to hurt your net worth and the return of your portfolio. I recommend having at least 20 positions in your portfolio at 5% each. 5 times 20 is 100%. And I don't recommend having more than 20% exposure to a certain sector either, meaning technology or industrials or healthcare, financial services, etc. Yeah. Okay. Eric wrote, for marketing, I was thought to build a brand along with a product, price, place, and promotion. How do you see marketing today and where is it going? Yeah. So marketing today, and I talk a lot about this, Eric, in the MBA program that you registered for in the 3rd semester in the Venture Capital Bootcamp, E3-1 through E3-5, Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1 through Class 5. But what's happening now is, and I don't recommend that people pay to advertise online. I recommend that you make your own content and you repurpose it. So what I do is with this weekly call, there's nothing left on the carcass after my team has looked at it. And what that means is my team will take certain questions that are asked and they'll make different videos for it, either on YouTube, TikTok, and we just started getting big on TikTok as well. Follow me if you want to, at Chris Haroun on TikTok. And so we repurpose everything. I learned this from Gary Vaynerchuk. And you got to think of yourself as a thought leader as well and opine a lot and repurpose your content. So write articles on LinkedIn and then repurpose those articles after 2 years and 104 articles written into a book, repurpose on YouTube, etc., and become a thought leader. Yeah. And you always want to build an email list, which is what I do. When I told you to go to my website, I'm building an email list, as you know, and I've got an insanely high number of emails. And that all comes from the funnel of me marketing here, on my live calls, etc. And then I'll send out emails to sell products, and you can always get off those lists. Yeah. So that's what I recommend doing instead of paying for advertising. It's a lot cheaper too. Yeah. Oh, John Clee. John, you wrote a message here. Hey, Chris, hope you're well. Great to see you, man. You're doing a great job with these weekly webcasts, writing up the questions. Thank you. But John here asked, hey, Chris, hope you're well, likewise. Could you refresh my memory on how you used to take the FOMC meeting commentary and see how it changed over time using Word? Can you do that with 10Ks as well? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's great to see you. So what I used to do was I would take the FOMC minutes, and basically the FOMC, it's Federal Open Market Committee, and there's a bunch of people that work in the Federal Reserve that determine interest rates in America. And every couple of weeks or so, they release just, I don't know, the minutes, which is basically a document detailing what they talked about in their last meeting. And so what you can do is you can take the last minutes, put it in a Microsoft Word 1 document, and the current period's minutes, put it in another Word document and compare. And if any words change from a qualitative perspective, forget about the numbers, they always change. But from a qualitative perspective, that can really help you understand what the government is thinking of next. So for example, if let's say in last month's minutes, the FOMC minutes said, we are somewhat worried about inflation. And if you compare it to this month's minutes, and the word somewhat changed to very, right? We are very worried about inflation. Then of course that means that people are expecting interest rates to go up more, which causes the market to go down. And so what you do is in Microsoft Word, you open both documents, okay? Or copy and paste the minutes from last one to this one, and you just do auto compare. And it will give you like a blue underlined for new words added, red cross out for words deleted. I used to do that as well for quarterly and annual reports. So I remember back, I think it was in Q2 or 3 of 2003. I did that with a lot of quarterly and annual reports. And I found out that new risks were added, right, to the quarterly or annual reports. At that point, it was SARS, right, which predates COVID. And a lot of people wrote about that. So you can always compare old annual reports like last year's to this year's to find out what the new risks are, or if the wording in the risks changed, right? And these companies have to list all material risks, or they can get sued. Yeah. Okay. Question is from Virox, wrote, Dear Mentor, you've been a blessing for me with the MBA. Thank you. Can you please explain what is infinite banking? Thanks. I don't know what that term means. I'll do research on that, and I'll talk about it in next week's call. Thank you. Let me take a screenshot of that so I don't forget. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then Mo wrote, Chris, do you have a freelancer that you would recommend to use for video time stamping? Yeah. If you want, you can reach out to John Clee, who does it for me. John, tell you what, John, send me an email. And you obviously have my email, John Clee, and I'll introduce you to Mo. And I'll let you guys take it from there. Thanks. Yeah. And if that doesn't work out between the two of you, let me know, Mo, through email, and I'll find somebody else. Yeah, thanks. But John's the best. Okay. Next up, Soros wrote, what's your opinion on premium selling? Yeah. I always recommend having an entry-level product that's free and then upsell from there, especially if you're doing something digital, right? And as I mentioned earlier with Snapchat, it's all about getting a large number of subscribers and then monetizing based on that. Yeah. And so this weekly call I do is free. I do have a lot of free courses as well. And so I go from free to premium, freemium, that sort of thing. And on my website, which you can learn more about right here, and I do have some free stuff there as well. I have free products, and then I've got silver, gold, platinum from my premium perspective, pricing perspective. Yeah. Okay. Digital Edwin said, what's your take on Litecoin? I do own Litecoin. I publicly disclose which 4 cryptos I own. There's 4 of them. For years I've owned. I'm not selling ever. Bitcoin, Ethereum, although I'm not mining Ethereum anymore for obvious reasons, as well as Ripple and Litecoin. Litecoin, it's kind of like, it's like Bitcoin, but it's a bit faster. So if Bitcoin is digital gold, Litecoin is digital silver. And because it's faster, you might be able to use it one day for transactions as well. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Sarush wrote, do you think the S&P 500 is going to keep bleeding in 2023? Thanks. Yeah. I can't call any markets. Nobody can within in the short term. My gut is that the market bottoms next year, and that next year second half will be decent. Those are my humble thoughts. Yeah. Okay. And then Digital Edwin wrote, I believe I can offer value to your cause. I really want to know how I can help to secure a scholarship for your course. Thank you. I appreciate that. You can always reach out to support@harounventures.com and we'll get back to you. And thank you for that. God bless you. All right, moving on to Arnav, who wrote, how do you invest in stocks? I'm new to it. Yeah. So what I recommend doing is I actually have a free course on Udemy on how to invest in stocks. So if you want, go to my Udemy page and just go through all my courses. And I've got a course in how to invest in stocks from scratch. And then what I recommend doing is you create a paper portfolio, meaning a pretend portfolio, and pretend to invest for at least 6 months first. And then what you can do is whatever country you're in, call the top 5 banks in your country and ask them if they have a stock trading platform subsidiary. And then talk to all 5 subsidiaries and ask them what the fees are and use the one with the lowest fees. Yeah. And as you learn about this stuff, please feel free to ask me here for free forever any questions you have. Okay. And then Sarush wrote, why not sell puts and protect the downside with a call? You can. And in the 4th semester of my MBA program in FA44, I provide you with 35 different option strategies. One of them is that. Yeah. Just be careful though, because although you're selling a put and you're buying a call, you could still lose a fortune on the put that you sold. Yeah. Yeah, the way it works is the options exchange can assign you. You can get randomly assigned, which means that you have to pay somebody else that bought the put, not from you, from somebody else. You have to pay them. It's called assignment. Yeah, it's deadly. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Digital Edwin wrote a message for everybody here. Please, everybody, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you. Yeah, my marketing team likes that too. Everybody click the like button. Thank you. Okay. And then Rose, follow up on Mastodon. She wrote, it's not funded by investors. It's funded by a charitable organization. So it's free to use and has no ads on the platform either. Yeah, I've never used it, but thank you for that. Oh my God, Jose, how are you? Jose was in my first year platinum program, MBA program years ago. Jose is from Venezuela originally, lived in New York with your wife and your daughter Sophia. And I met your wife. It was wonderful at graduation last year. And I think you live in Texas now. You work in the payments market. Good to see you. You wrote, so good to see you again. God bless you. You look great, by the way. Love your new haircut. Thank you. Thank you. It's a wig. Yeah. Yeah. Great to see you, buddy. Yeah. Next up, we got Hui. Hey, Hui, how are you, man? Who wrote, good morning, Chris. Hope all is well. Likewise. What was your thoughts when Dell went public to private? What was the lesson learned? Was it a good decision? Yeah. I think it made sense in hindsight because PCs weren't really seeing robust growth, and the company was undervalued. And so Michael Dell decided, hey, I'm going to partner with this private equity firm and go private. And since then, Dell eventually moved away from just doing computers, and they rebranded themselves from Dell Computer to Dell Inc. Kind of like how Apple years ago rebranded themselves from Apple Computers to Apple Inc. Yeah. Okay. Renvir wrote, I've started to read Fooled by Randomness by Taleb. Yeah. You wrote, I was wondering, what are 3 things you learned from the book when it comes to investing and trading? Yeah, I'll just tell you one thing, and I read it actually before I started working at a hedge fund at Kingdon in 2003. So Fooled by Randomness, written by Taleb, it basically, the bottom line is that you can't be a day trader because random events make stocks go up and down. It's outside of your control. Right, and each month has 20 weekdays, meaning 20 days when the market's open. And if you try to make money every day or every month, you're gonna be fooled by randomness because stocks go up and down for random events, random reasons. It might be what Ping has to say out of China, or Putin with respect to saber rattling with the United States, or I don't know, election data. Who's going to win the Senate or Congress? Who knows, man? Or it might be like, say you invest in a semiconductor company, a small cap, and Intel reports earnings and blows up. Like, you can't control that stuff in the near term, right? It's all random events. And so you got to be long-term focused, and you got to tell yourself this. You got to tell yourself, when it comes to your target price, I know that I don't know the path, but I know the destination. And you got to think long-term, because in between there's a lot of volatility and random events. Yeah. Day trading is not a career. Yeah. Okay, next up, Yogi wrote, hi, Professor. Hey, man. I want to do stock trading. Can you tell me what are things that I need to learn? Yeah. So I would say, please don't do trading. I would be more of a fundamental-based investor. You focus on fundamentals first, valuation second, and a distant third is technical analysis to help you decide when to get in or out of position or take a little bit of profits. Yeah. And I teach this in a lot more detail in my courses in my MBA program, which you can learn about at this link here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Renvir wrote, George Soros is reputed to betting his whole fund on a single trade. What, in your opinion, are the hedging strategies used in doing those trades? Yeah, no, he goes all in. He goes all in. We don't know behind the scenes what hedging strategies he's done. A lot of sophisticated investors will create options. Using really complex option structures to protect the downside if, God forbid, a trade unwinds. Okay, there's 35 different option strategies that I teach in my MBA program. Yeah. But, and I've had friends that have worked for George Soros. There's a guy named Carson Levitt who's my mentor in the industry. He hired me at Citadel and Pequot, 2 hedge funds I worked for, and he was George Soros' right-hand man back in the late 90s. And Carson actually made $1 billion in one stock in 1 month. That was Qualcomm in December of 1999 for George Soros. But Carson gave me the impression that George understands a lot more about macro stuff and less so about single stocks. Yeah, he hires people that invest in single stocks. Yeah. Okay. And then Carolyn wrote, do you think Twitter will go public again? Absolutely. I think Elon's going to make a fortune on this. Yeah. And I think it could be $1 trillion market cap one day if done correctly. And a lot of people in the media will beat up Elon when it comes to what he's doing with Twitter. And I don't want to talk about politics or any of that crap. But we have to keep in mind that Elon is a turnaround expert. He wasn't the founder of Tesla, but he turned around. He's incredible at executing. Yeah. And what I do is I actually monitor every single day the number of followers that Elon has on Twitter, and it goes up by a couple 100,000 every day. So Twitter is growing. It's not just his account. It is growing. Yeah. He's at 120.3 million, I think, right now, followers. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Isa. Hey, Isa. First time I've seen you on the call. I hope you join us again. Isa wrote, hi, I'm a teen. And I've got 3 teenage boys as well. They're older now. We got 18, Matthew's 17, and Dylan is 13 going on 30. Yeah. She wrote, hi, I'm a teen. How much money could I make learning all this stuff? Yeah. So the best thing to do is to start investing at a young age and to do your own research as well. And I can teach you all that stuff as well. And Isa, send me a message to support@harounventures.com. And I'll give you my silver MBA program for free. Yeah. And then you can join me on my weekly calls every for my Silver MBA students, every single Thursday at 10 a.m. we do a Zoom call as well. Yeah, and for those of you in the Silver MBA program, you can always go to the first lecture in the curriculum to get this week's link. Yeah, but start early. Yeah, and I explain the time value of money in a lot of detail in my MBA program, which again I'll give to you for free. Again, email support@harounventures.com. Yeah, welcome to the family too. Okay, next up, Sarthik wrote, hey Chris, do you have a Udemy course on how money completely works? Like everything on how money is created and what to do with money? No, I don't. But in my MBA degree program, the Silver, Gold, and Platinum version, you can find out more right here. I talk a lot about macroeconomics in a fun way as well. Yeah. Okay. And I guess cryptos. Yeah. That's kind of like digital future of money economics stuff. Okay, next up, Captain Red Arrow wrote, oh, you pasted that again. I read that question, yeah. Sarthik wrote, I love you, Chris. You're my mentor. Thank you. I love you more. Thank you. Okay, let's switch angles here to my messy desk angle. Okay. Next up, Jose wrote, how do you bank the unbanked? I'm working on a project to connect everybody that does not have a bank account in the U.S. to connect them to the U.S. Banking ledger. Yeah. Oof. I know that longer term microtransactions are the way to go, and mobile-based banking is as well. I really don't know the answer to that. I'm so sorry. Next up, Sarthik wrote, hey, Chris, I can't buy your Platinum course. So do you have a free business plan Udemy course? I wanted to start my business soon. It is fine if you don't have a free one. I don't, but if you go to my, if you go to this website here, I do have a course called the Complete Business Plan course. It's not as comprehensive as my MBA business plan stuff, but you can get it there, and it's $9.99. And there's bundles as well. Yeah. Okay, next up, Ya. Hey, Ya, how are you? Ya is one of my MBA students as well. Ya wrote from Atlanta, I think, yeah. Ya wrote, hey, Chris and everyone, how much ETFs do you recommend a portfolio should have? Yeah, it all depends on how much time you have to do research on single stocks. So I think you're in my September MBA program. Next summer, in the fourth semester, in the EMS class, EMS 4-2, we're going to cover how to do a ton of research on individual stocks as we build up towards learning all about finance and accounting. So I would say 100% of your portfolio for now can be in ETFs, as long as they're diversified. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Thuya Glover wrote, good morning, Chris. Always love learning from you. Thank you. What do you think of quantitative finance? Is it worth to study to become a portfolio manager? Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the problems I see with a lot of investors, newer investors, is they just look at qualitative stuff. But without data, you know, you've got just kind of an opinion. It's not a thesis. You need data. And so what I teach in my MBA degree program is how to use financial statements to project the future, and then how to value companies based on your future expectations of earnings. Now, when it comes to quantitative finance, you can also look at artificial intelligence-based algorithms for helping you to pick stocks, right? It's a new sector. It's not easy. It's very hard to do, but it's going to be a big sector. I promise you, it's something I'm looking at closely with respect to teaching my MBA students. And I'm taking my MBA degree program in a technology direction as well. I'm going to teach you guys how to use a lot of programming products, etc., and data analysis products. Yeah. But make sure, and if you want just to look at basic quantitative portfolio management metrics or risk management, make sure you set limits in terms of your exposure to different sectors. Like, don't have more than 20% of your portfolio in any one sector. And as I mentioned earlier, no more than 5% in any one stock, etc. Okay. All right. Sarthik wrote, have you used ChatGPT yet? If not, you should try it. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. And then Ed Jewell wrote, that's awesome, Chris. What you just did for Isa, God bless. Thank you. God bless you more. Next up, Darren wrote, "Yo, Chris, how much annual returns do you advise is possible with growth investing?" Yeah. So it all depends. It all depends on what market environment we're in. If we're in a bull market, meaning stocks are going up a lot, then growth stocks are going to massively outperform, and you could probably make over 20%. In a bear market, which we're in right now, you're going to get torched. You're going to get really hurt with growth stocks. Yeah. But if you look at the S&P 500 index, it's kind of, I don't know, it's half growth, half value now. The average return has been 10.5% longer term. Yeah. So if you buy the VOO, ticker VOO, you will make, in the long run, 10.5% on average per year. Yeah. I'm more of a growth investor. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then Dan wrote, "Hi Chris, buy now, pay later offerings in retail seem to have making a comeback lately. Do you see that trend continuing?" Absolutely. A lot of payment firms have gotten into this. eBay is really looked into this as well. So is PayPal. Yeah, it's definitely a new consumer financing trend. Yeah. And Square also. Okay. And then Dane wrote, "You dissuade us from investing in mutual funds, saying they're too expensive or worse. What about no-load mutuals? Vanguard has many no-load funds." Yeah, so you'd have to look at the individual fund and find out what the fees are, the exact fees, okay? And there's always fees. Even if they say there's no fees, there's definitely fees. So what you want to do, if you're going to buy an insurance product or any financial product, period, always call the company, talk to customer support, and ask them to explain in simple terms for me, because I don't get this stuff, but in simple terms, for every dollar that I invest, how many pennies per year goes to fees? And after they explain that to you, then on the phone, because everything is recorded for quality assurance, you explain back to them what you think the fees are. Rinse, lather, repeat. Do that over and over and over again until you completely understand and they tell you on that call that you are correct. All right, next up, Anil wrote, "Good morning, Chris. Do you offer any courses on understanding quantitative finance, algorithmic trading?" Not yet, but it's coming. So if anybody signs up for my MBA degree program, you are going to get all the new technology courses that I teach you added to the curriculum automatically. And so the first one, first program one I'm going to be adding is in January, which you guys will love. All right, keep typing your questions if you have them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. And I'm going to show you a vlog that I published about the Wolf of Wall Street movie and finance lessons from the Wolf of Wall Street. Let's talk about finance lessons from the Wolf of Wall Street based on my work experience at Goldman Sachs in New York City and based on my work experience at the top hedge funds in the world. Be sure to comment and like, and stick around because at the end of this video, I will grade the movie for Wall Street realism with a buy, hold, or sell rating. The reality is when the FBI gets you and they have you wear a wire, you usually give up other people, so you spend a lot less time in jail. I know it shows that he's being really loyal here, but he did turn on his friends, and that's the real story.
When we arrived at prison, I was absolutely terrified. And I lived in a place where everything was for sale.
The reality is when you go to jail for this insider trading type stuff, it's not maximum security. They call it Club Fed. It's like a low-end Ramada. I've never done anything wrong myself. I have visited friends of mine that have been in jail, especially at Taft, which is a jail 5 hours south of where I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. There are no security guards outdoors with guns. There's cameras everywhere, so you can't leave. But it's not like it's maximum security at all. Again, there's a reason they call it Club Fed. All right, so the bottom line is, this is a great movie. I love Martin Scorsese. I love the acting. I'm going to give it a hold rating because a lot of it is not realistic in terms of what would really happen in the real world. Some of it is a little bit far-fetched as well in terms of historical accuracies. Love the movie, but I'm going to give it a hold rating. Please like and subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm taking steps here on my treadmill. I get 20,000 steps a day doing this. I'll show you where to buy a treadmill like the one I have here. And I've got a stand-up desk as well. Let me show you here. And I'm telling you, man, my productivity has gone through the roof because of this. So I found that when I was younger, if I'd study first thing in the morning for an hour, that was the equivalent of like 10 hours at night when you're brain dead. And so I did some biohacking. I realized that when you're exercising while you're working, you're taking in a lot of oxygen in your mind. And as a result, you can think more clearly all day long. So it feels like I woke up all day long and I get 10 times more work done every day because of this. Let me show you how to get this product if you want one. So I got this from Amazon. Search my orders here, treadmill. And it's basically the cheapest treadmill you can get. So here it is right here. And I put it under my desk. I've got one of those stand-up desks that moves up and down. And you could put it under a couch as well if you want to. It's amazing though, and it's a great investment. Now, if you don't want to buy this for your apartment or whatever, you can get one of these and take it to the gym as well. But anyway, I got a ton of work done this way. It's one of my biohacks, along with drinking a whole thing of vodka every day to give me confidence when I present. And I humbly recommend it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, I see there's questions there. Please keep typing them. If you have any questions about the Wolf of Wall Street movie as well, I'm happy to talk about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Zoom. And if you guys want, you can join me on Zoom right now to ask questions. So the way to go there is you go to harounmba.com/Zoom. See here? harounmba.com/Zoom, all lowercase Zoom. And you click this link and you can join me on a Zoom call. So what I'll do is I'll open up Zoom right now. And while we're loading, I'll take your other questions as well. Okay. All right. So next question I've got here is, let me actually stop the walking for a second. Next question I've got here is from CL. CL wrote, "Hi, Chris. My name is Eliyahu. I came from," let me go back over here for a second. "I came from the Ukraine." Oh, God bless you. "I came from Ukraine to New York. I'm a finance professional, but English is not my native language. What companies would you recommend to start a career in the United States?" Well, first of all, God bless you, and I hope that your family is safe. And tell you what, send me an email and you can join my Platinum MBA program for free, which includes 3 hours of one-on-one coaching, so I can write your entire LinkedIn profile and walk through walls to get you a job in the finance industry in New York. So email me at support@harounventures.com and I'll take care of you. Okay. So again, that's support@harounventures.com. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let me go back now to Zoom. If you guys want, you can join Zoom here as well. Hold on a second. And having a good Zoom presence will do the same thing for your career as a good Italian suit will do for your career as well. Okay, so if you guys want, you can join Zoom and ask me questions here. While I wait for people to join, if you want to, it's optional, obviously. I'll answer any other questions here. Okay, next up, it looks like we got Game PE joining. Okay, cool. So Jose wrote, "Chris, how do you establish a trust and buy life insurance that will pay my family at the end?" Yeah. Good for you for thinking about life insurance. Yeah, I'm actually worth more dead than alive. So what I recommend you do, and this is what I did, is you go to LegalZoom.com and you can, for a very low fee, a couple $100, you can set up an entire trust and estate. And what happens is they set it up as a revocable trust. And these things are, and you can invest out of that as well if you want to. So it'll be called something like the Jose Leonard revocable trust dated April 22nd, 2023. Whatever date it becomes live, so to speak. The date's always in the title. And they can set everything up for you as well. And good for you for doing that. Awesome. Okay. And then we got Game PE. And if you, is that Simon?
Yeah, it's me, Simon.
Oh my God. How are you, man? I recognize I know you go by Scatter here as well. Thank you. Please thank your mom for me for that wonderful advice. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, well, not too bad. Game PE was a startup that failed a number of years ago, which was basically like you could chat inside Counter-Strike into MSN and like all of the social stuff.
Right.
So that's where the game P comes from.
Cool.
So yeah, no real questions from my side. I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing, man.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good, thanks. I fixed my sleep, man. So I had problems earlier this year with sleep. So I went to Stanford University for a sleep study, and they fixed my sleep. And I also wear this Oura ring here. And let me show you here, because it's a big deal for me. I'm proud of myself for it. So my sleep last night, it was 91%. I got a lot of deep sleep as well, which was 20%, which is the highest I've had in a year, actually. And when deep sleep actually fixes your brain, your muscles, everything. And you got to monitor it closely. And so the way that I get more deep sleep through the Stanford study, a couple things. Number one, I don't use this thing at night. Or if I do, I wear these blue blocking glasses, which are like $10 on Amazon to block the blue light. Number two, I'm not allowed to go to my bed for any reason but to sleep. I can't read in bed or do anything else. Number three, well, there's no alcohol, they say, and I don't drink. I haven't drank for years. Simon, I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less, okay? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, alcohol will certainly send people down the wrong path.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. It's a drug.
Absolutely. But I highly recommend this product if you guys are having sleeping problems or cognitive abilities aren't as good as they used to be. Like if you can't speak as good as you could before. It's called the Oura ring, Oura. It's a bit pricey, but I think it's a good investment. Yeah.
I took 3 of those rings when they first came out as a technology.
Yeah.
But it was like developer editions with no real application, and they ended up in the drawer. Yeah. But sleep is a really interesting thing. I was, if you want to hear about it, I was doing some research on GPT and how sleep works, which may be interesting.
Yeah. No, it's so important, man. Like your life doesn't work without good deep sleep. I'm convinced of it. Yeah.
So I was chatting with a GPT character, which is sort of based on Sigmund Freud, and this was just last night. And we was talking about how AI and how neurology fit together specifically. And we was talking about sleep. So essentially, one of the important things to realize with sleep is we experience things backwards in terms of our subconscious, not forwards. Temporally, it works backwards. And also, our consciousness is just us recalling things from our subconscious, which are rewarding us with a dopamine hit.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
It does. Absolutely.
So, Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that sleep it's unbelievable. The amazing ideas you can get also right as you're falling asleep. Like Paul McCartney, for example. Paul McCartney's amazing. If you guys haven't seen Paul McCartney in concert, please do so while you still can. But Paul McCartney, I saw him in concert a couple of years ago. He was explaining that a lot of the songs that he writes just as he's about to fall asleep. Right, you're in this level of consciousness, and the song "Let It Be," he actually wrote after his dreams. And what happened was in the late '60s, he was really sad, a lot of pressure with the Beatles and stuff, and his mom died when he was a teenager. And his mom came to him in a dream. Her name is Mary, and he said this: "When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be." And so the lyrics and the music he created while he was just about to fall asleep. Yeah.
My brother loves that song. It's his favorite artist.
Oh, it's brilliant.
But the AI really at the moment, it can't create. And that's one of the biggest issues and challenges with AI. And that's why AI will never replace you as an educator, Chris.
Right.
It can't create and is only aware of the past. Its reference point is when its engine was put together, which is, a year out of date. So it doesn't know about current events. But one of the things I was playing with is, how can we get AI to dream? Like we've all seen these images that AI cooks up, and they don't look great. Like, we wouldn't use them. They're not good. But if you get millions and millions of them, and you teach AI to recognize which one's actually going to give a dopamine hit, then it can start to have something coming through from that emulation of a subconscious mind into an AI conscious, essentially, which is general artificial intelligence. So that's what I've been playing with over the last 24 hours.
Amazing. That was a GPT?
Well, yeah. What I essentially did is I said to GPT,
Simon, do you want to share your screen and show us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. And if you don't mind, can you explain to our viewers what GPT is when you show this?
Okay. Keep in mind this might not all work 100%.
Yeah, sure.
So GPT is a system developed by OpenAI, an Elon Musk company, and it's an artificial intelligence system that attempts to predict how a human will construct a sentence. So you give it a few words and it will try and follow on. So let me just share screen here.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, first challenge will be getting to my... yeah, we can do that. So... if I go here... So this is Colab Google research platform, which allows AI scientists to do research into AI and to run lots of really complicated code. And basically, we start off with checking the GPU type to make sure we've got a good GPU. And let's just show here the code. And this is in Python. And Chris has an excellent course coming up in Python and how it can be used in terms of finance and AI. But basically, it goes into taking my API key here, sending it across to OpenAI. And I set up a couple of prompts here, which is basically that you're talking with an AI assistant. And I want it to talk about my company, Aon. And I give it a bit of knowledge about Aon with one of those prompts. And the other one is just a base, you're talking to an AI assistant. So I ask it for a catchy title about Web3 because we're starting a marketing campaign, and the marketing campaign is going to be AI powered, and we're going to produce newsletters. So I say to it, give me a catchy title about Web3, and I'll just run all this here so that we get some output as well. And I ask it for a title about the difficulty of switching from Web 2 to Web 3, a title about Aon, keeping in mind everything it knows about my company, and a title about reducing the costs of Web 3. And this isn't the best code. This is just draft code, by the way, so it's not good coding practice, but it does the job. So then I'm downloading this template, which I'll show you in a minute, which is for a newsletter. And I'm basically replacing its responses with what's in the newsletter already. So I'm filling out the titles within the newsletter here. So you can see it's running through there, and it's done that, and there's the lengths of the results. So kind of went past pretty quick. And it said, okay, so exploring the wild west of Web3, how can you get involved as a title? And we could generate titles the same for the education thing, Chris. If you're interested, you're free to use the software when it's done. The challenges of moving from Web 2 to Web 3, and the power of Aon Capital, how AI, machine learning, and crypto arbitrage can provide a 30 to 40% tax reduction and 7% dividends returns. And it's basically talking about I think somebody had the question about how they should invest into an irrevocable life trust. So the same sort of system for onboarding capital.
So all that stuff was created by this AI, not you. Like,
yeah, the AI did that completely.
Like the 30 to 40% tax reduction, where to get that from? Did you tell it that, or it just knew?
Yeah, I gave it a bunch of knowledge. So if we go back up, I gave it like
bunch of parameters, right?
A bunch of information on Aon Capital as like a starting point. So let me just make this a bit more visible. Wait. It'll be in this one. Okay, just 1 second. Here we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so it threw it in from there. Yeah, I've seen people ask the ChatGPT or whatever it's called a really basic question, and it writes an entire essay It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it's important when you're doing prompt engineering, which is a new emerging field of AI. To be able to get a prompt like this is quite a long prompt, as you see. And it talks all about all the different parts of Aeon. But basically, I'm saying to it, you know all this stuff. Now, here's what you've got to do. You've got to write a title for me. So it knows it's got to write something that's, 10 words or...
Right. Okay, title. Gotcha.
Title like. So it generates the title, and let's just go over this. So these are the titles, so after they're cleaned up a bit in a text file. And then it takes the HTML file, makes sure there isn't a new one, and it begins to construct the HTML file and the code. It runs up a server using bankrupt.io, great system to get an IP on Google. And then it gives you an output page. So we can actually open this. Let's open it in a new window. And there's the page. So you can see here that it's put those titles that it's generated into the page.
Incredible.
Challenges of moving from Web3, etc., etc. So anyway, the next phase of work on this is to replace these images. And that's where I got thinking about the AI stuff. So what I did is I created an image, and let me see if I can find the actual negatives here. Just 1 second. I'm not sure where the original one is, but it created a very funky image.
It's amazing.
And I said to it, okay, can you Google search for this image and find me the closest match?
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm doing there is I'm plugging the AI technology into the human consciousness, because the human consciousness drew this image. This was just, something somebody published on Google, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well, we can't use that because that's copyright of, I don't know, WeChat or whichever company it came from. So we now need to change this image using AI and make it something royalty free. So in order to do that, I have like an AI running here. It's going to take a while. Unfortunately, because of all the noise that's been made about AI recently, it is a bit busy. So in 8 or 9 hours, I'll have a new image that looks like this. And I said I want to change this to use a blue color palette and make it have a more of a digital aspect to it. And then that will come in and replace the top image on that newsletter, and generate images in the same way throughout the newsletter. And thus, based on the template, is generated an entire newsletter just based on 4 sentences. And once it knows how to do that, it can just repeat once a week, and it can be extended to use other templates. But you really want to stay on brand and use the same font.
This is incredible, and I think that movie scores in the future will be based on this. It's unbelievable. Your inputs can be, I don't know, Hans Zimmer, John Williams, whatever, to create incredible, musical scores. And rap singers actually using this technology now for lyrics. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So the inputs was just this: catchy title about Web3, title about difficulty of switching from Web2 to Web3, title about Aeon. Of course, I told it the background details, and title about reducing the cost of Web3. And then what we want to do is take the actual articles that we're going to produce off the back of that.
Right.
And that's where we just say to it, if I just take this title about Web3 for a second here. Just 1 second. And incredible. I go here, and I think this tab.
Incredible. It's amazing. And for anybody in my Silver MBA program, Caroline, who's on the call, and others, go to the first lecture right now if you want to of the syllabus in the Silver Haroun MBA degree program. And you'll be able to click to join the link to the call. I'm going to start in a couple of minutes, which is my weekly call for Silver students. That's amazing, dude. Well, Simon, thank you so much for showing this. I appreciate it. It's incredible how this works. And I know a lot of teachers and high school teachers are really worried about this, because you can create entire essays by asking a single question like you're doing right here.
Yeah, and we're going to take that and plug it into an AI actor. So we'll have like a metaverse based sort of copy of somebody and have them read that out and follow it as a script, and then we'll put out video content and multi-channel stuff.
It's amazing. And Simon, I'd love to ask you, man, because I always respect your opinion. You're definitely cutting edge. On next week's webcast, if you're free, or the week after, whatever works for you, can I have you come on just to show just a demo of how this works for writing essays or writing copy or writing anything?
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll email you about the details and we'll set it up.
Thank you. And give your mom a big hug for me and thank her, please. That was great feedback. Appreciate that.
Yeah, relayed your email to her.
Awesome. Good. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up this webcast now. Caroline and Simon, if you want, you guys can stay on. I'll come back in about 10 minutes for this call. So I'm going to go dark here for a bit. Thank you. God bless you. Okay, let me go back over here.
Hey, Caroline. Good to meet you.
Hey, hi.
All right, cool. So I want to thank you all for joining us for our 211th weekly webcast. God bless y'all. Click like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. If you want to check out my courses, you can do so here at this link right here. I'm going to end this webcast with a video that I licensed. It's a Steve Jobs interview from the Silicon Valley Historical Association that is life-changing. God bless you guys. I'll see you next week, and thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.